Thanks very much. Listen, it's a pleasure for me to be here. It is a pleasure to join such an important conversation with the folks in this room. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. I feel like maybe the right place to start this morning is to try to pick back up on some of the positivity where I think we started. Somehow we've taken a very negative turn. I think there is a lot to recognize. And as I talk about where this relationship is, where the relationship between the United States and Cyprus is, there is a tremendous amount of positive momentum in what we are doing. And so I think it's probably a particularly good time, right? As we sit on the cusp of the end of one administration and we look forward to, learning about the policies of the new administration, right? We have one president at a time, so I certainly can't speak for the future, but what I can speak to is what we have done that I think is making an impact, that is making a difference for the citizens of the United States and the citizens of Cyprus. And it is having a positive impact on the region here, this turbulent region in the Middle East. It is also having an incredibly positive impact, I think, in terms of Russia's ability to wage its war in Ukraine. So if I turn back the clock a little bit, if you allow me, there is an awful lot that has happened in 2024. President Christodoulides, I think, summarized quite a bit of what we have accomplished and what we have done. 18 months ago, right, we were evacuating citizens, many nations, were evacuating citizens out of Sudan via Cyprus. And the work we did at that point, the work we did together to think about crisis planning, contingency planning, really provided an absolutely essential foundation that we would need to draw upon following the horrific attacks of Hamas against Israel in October of last year, right? And I feel like we have been reminded, but we can never say it enough, right? The attacks of October 7 of 2023, right? They resonate because the hostages still are not home. They resonate because civilians in Gaza are still in need. And these are issues that we are continuing to work on every single day, right? I know the focus is on the politics, but these are issues that the United States is continuing to work on every day and for which Cyprus is an absolutely essential partner. So following these events, of course, we had an increased operational tempo in the Eastern Mediterranean, both as we responded to threats against U.S. interests, threats against U.S. allies, threats emanating from Hamas, from Hezbollah, from the Houthis, from Iran directly. We have seen the increased presence of the U.S. military in the region. We have seen an increase in our cooperation, our coordination with the National Guard, the preparation, the all-encompassing preparation and work that, again, so many nations have done together to prepare to support civilians in crisis. This, to me, is an area where President Christodoulides and his team have put themselves forward again and again and again, and it is to say that Cyprus will be that place, be the island of stability that we can count on when our citizens need it, if our citizens need it. And, I think about the resources that my own nation brings to bear when it comes to these kinds of questions, and I think about the resources available to the Republic of Cyprus as they looked at dozens of countries that were all planning for the same kinds of evacuation, and it's an incredible commitment that is reflected in this way. And it is, again, I like to, when I talk about the relationship that we have been building and that we are building, it fundamentally comes back every single time to the question of what we are delivering for citizens. And so this is, yet again, one of those areas. So we had an opportunity in the spring, right, following President Christodoulides' offer to make Cyprus's ports, its facilities available to speed assistance, to work so closely with Israel, to speed assistance to civilians in need in Gaza. The partnership again with the UN, with European nations, with the United Kingdom and others, to do everything we could to get food, to get calories to those in need. It is Cyprus that enabled this. So this effort increased the cooperation that we had, not just sort of at a strategic level or the state partnership level between the National Guard and the National Guard of the state of New Jersey, but it meant we had the Central Command, we had the European Command, we had planners here, we had joint training taking place, which meant that by the time we got to the visit of the Assistant Secretary of Defense, Celeste Wallander, and we had the opportunity to develop a roadmap looking forward for the next 5 years of what our defense and security cooperation might be, we had a really robust to-do list in front of us to really think about how we would prepare to support civilian infrastructure, to increase civilian resilience, what it is we can do together to make our citizens and the citizens of this region more secure and to contribute to the stability of this region. That took us directly into the strategic dialogue, which we held last month with a wide range of officials from Washington, from many agencies, led by Assistant Secretary Jim O'Brien from the State Department, at which, we went through an incredibly comprehensive agenda, thinking about not just regional developments, not just the conflicts in Europe and in the Middle East, thinking very broadly about the politics of this era, thinking about what more we could do in terms of people-to-people ties to make sure that Cypriots and Americans are studying together, that they are finding economic opportunities across the Atlantic, that we are fostering that. Thinking about what we do together between the United States and the European Union and Cyprus's role in that. We had the opportunity to think about what it is that binds us together as we think about future technologies like AI, quantum computing, as we think about what is the purpose of space exploration, right? Cyprus's decision to sign on to the Artemis Accords. An incredibly broad agenda. And that wide-ranging set of meetings and discussions with so many, dozens of officials from Washington and from Cyprus, is genuinely what led to an invitation for President Christodoulides after 28 years since the last time President of the Republic of Cyprus visited the Oval Office, to the invitation from President Biden, which was very much an expression by President Biden, his desire to express the gratitude of the United States, the people of the United States, for all of the leadership that he has shown, that Cyprus has shown across this broad range of issues, that the leadership that has come from the business community, the leadership from members of parliament in supporting closer ties between the United States, cementing President Christodoulides that Cyprus's orientation in the transatlantic family and in that Western view, in particular supporting Ukraine and countering Russia. There is so much more that we have the opportunity to build on, but I think it's important to recognize that, the relationship that we have been building in this administration, since I've been president in Cyprus, right? It didn't start the day I arrived in Cyprus. It started with my predecessor and with her predecessor. And it didn't just start with this Secretary of State or this president. It started with their predecessors and their predecessors. I look at one of my former colleagues, my Bryza, who's here, and I think about the work he did on these issues, right? And we are constantly building on this. And so we have an incredible amount of momentum to this partnership. There continues, I think, to be a lot of reasons for the citizens of both of our nations to continue to support these closer ties. And I look forward to continuing to work on that up until January 20th, after January 20th, and in the months and years to come.
Thank you. I'm tempted just to ask one question, really, although, again, we are up against the clock. But you heard the conclusion of the last panel that we were talking about. And to some extent, this has been brought on by what happened on November the 7th, even more in the United States. But the truth is that for many years now, the United States, with its commitment still to Europe and obviously to NATO, has been looking to the Europeans to do more for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that obviously means more in defence, but just generally, the focus of the United States under successive presidents has switched a little bit more to China, to Asia, and so on, and other threats. And the implicit, or even sometimes, in the case of some people, explicit request from the United States is that Europe should look after itself more than it has done so far. Do you think that's a fair conclusion?
You know, I think nobody speaks to that question better than Europeans. I heard in the last panel, right? I heard our colleague from Poland. I heard, right? I hear Europeans asking this question about themselves, and I think that's where it really belongs, right? The United States needs Europe. Europe needs the United States, needs North America. We, in this world with all of the threats that have been enumerated in the last panel and raised by the foreign minister, raised by the president, right? The range of challenges that democracies face, no matter whether they're in Asia, like our Australian colleagues, I know the High Commissioner is here, or Europe, we have to be able to work together in these moments. The work we do together in the G7 is incredibly important. The question of whether Europe is doing enough for Europe is first and foremost a question for Europeans. But we need the strongest possible Europe as our partner if we are going to be successful. That is what my experience has been. 2 tours in Brussels, there is opportunity in front of us. There is also peril. Many have mentioned that. And so a strong Europe is absolutely imperative. There can be no question about it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we are going to go on, I think, to discuss this a bit more with 2 more on our panel. So I think I'd just like to say thank you very much to the Ambassador. Thank you.